Hey everyone, it's here. Spring is here, finally. All right, so we can finally get into some bigger things, get into bigger projects. The weather's looking beautiful out there. Um, One of the first things though is you got to take care of your car, make sure it's taken care of. So here's my top 10 tips I think you can do to spring prep your car. There's a lot of other things you can do too, and I'm sure a lot of people have other things to add onto the list. So, along with liking, subscribing, make sure if you comment, say some of the things, if I didn't include them in there, things you can add on to that you do for your car, or anything like that for the spring prep. Anything like that, anything that can help people out, the more the merrier. So why not? Though these are just my top 10s, why not, right? Add anything on if you want to. And of course, if you do dislike the video, make sure just to comment why, let me know why, so I can always make sure my content is the best possible content out there. Other than that, let's get right to it. First thing you want to do is check your tire pressure. You'd be surprised how often this gets overlooked on cars, especially in the wintertime, because you should be checking it probably once a month, is what my estimation would be. But it's covered in snow, it's covered in ice, it's cold out. Not a lot of people check their tire pressure, but you'd be surprised how that can affect your fuel economy, how well your car puts on the power, how well it deals with the snow, and how it deals with the road in the summertime. So check your tire pressure first and foremost. And adding to that, of course, if you're using winter tires, now would be a good time to change over to the summer tires. So when you're checking your tire pressure, check it for the winters as you're putting them away, and also check it for the summers, because you don't want to put on underinflated tires onto your car. Check the tire pressure first, then put it on the car. Next, take care of your car's drivability. So that means at the very least, shaking out your cabin filter, which is often in most cars located right in behind the glove box, and your air filter. Make sure you change both of them. I said at the very least, take them out and shake them out. If you want to buy some time, or if you didn't put a lot of mileage on the car or whatever, you can take care of that. But I do always recommend changing them once a year anyway, so that's the way to go. Don't shake them out unless absolutely necessary, or again, you put very low mileage on the car, but you want to get those done as well. Whether you go into auto shop and you have them do the oil change, or if you're like myself and you do your oil changes yourself, now it's the perfect time to go and get it done. I tend to do it once in the spring, once in the fall. So when I'm doing my springtime prep, this is one of the things I'm doing, is doing my oil change. And as we're on the subject of fluids, top up fluids as necessary. Check all of them out, make sure. For example, on this car here, you have your power steering fluid, your coolant, your washer fluid. Down here is where the engine oil is, but obviously we'll be changing that. You got your transmission fluid, which is down in there, and you have your brake fluid there. Any other fluids you have, check all of them. Make sure that they're all in good condition. Nothing is good, nothing needs to be changed. And of course, if they need to be topped up, through the winter season, it could have burned off. Washer fluid will definitely be used throughout the winter. Coolant or anything could be used up a bit. Top whatever you can up so you're entering the spring with strong fluids in your car ready to go. And since we're already in here checking out fluids and whatnot, you want to check your engine and look for anything unusual. Look for any unusual fluids, spills, leaks, anything like that at all. You want to be checking around all inside. You first want to do it with the car off, just to get a feel for anything. Checking around on the inside, all around. Check your battery for any type of corrosion or buildup or anything like that. And then you want to check again with the car running, with the engine running itself. This way, you can look and see, let it run for a few minutes first. You'll see if there's any unusual noises. You may hear the belt making a little bit of noise. You may hear some squeaking. You may see something leaking, that when the engine is cold, it's not leaking, but when it's warm, it is. So you want to check it again. Of course, because the engine's running, I always say to exercise caution when you're checking things out. But you want to give a look around and make sure everything is good within your engine. Then you also want to take your car for a drive after you've listened for sounds and everything like that. Just with the stereo off, heater controls off, AC off, have your windows open and windows closed, actually, both you want to do. And just listen. Listen for anything unusual. Hear for any weird noises you may have missed, because in the winter, you have the car bundled up, you have the heater on, you may have your music blaring. You're not going to listen for anything that's happening. But you want to take the time now to do that, right? Just have a listen, hear, see if there's anything that's coming up, right? This is the time to do that, because now you can address issues that come up before they become bigger things. Now this next one here is actually very helpful, easy to do if you have a helper to help you out with this. And that's to check all lights and switches to make sure if any bulbs or anything needs to be replaced, that you replace them. That means running the car or doing anything, putting on your headlights, checking fog lights. You want to check your rear brake lights too, make sure your brake lights are working. Check your signals, reverse lights. Even something simple as your license plate lights, anything like that, checking all that out for sure. And then going in your car and checking all things, checking things like your signals, make sure they work, the switches themselves, right? You know, things like your wipers. You know, checking all the buttons, major buttons, everything like that, heater controls, everything, just to make sure everything is working. Because now is the time, if anything, to get things changed, right? In the wintertime, sometimes you may have neglected it, or you may not even have noticed it, you know, but now is the time to do it. Even something like checking your AC or anything like that, making sure the AC is working. This is all things you want to do. Now is the perfect time to do it. And that's where having someone handy is also very useful, because if you're checking all the switches, checking all the lights and stuff, certain things like the reverse light can be very hard or very dangerous to do on your own. So having someone there as you flip the signal to check the signal lights, make sure they're turning on, make sure the headlights are turning on, when you put them in reverse, make sure those are all working. That's all where it's very useful to have someone who can at least spot that for you as you're changing all through the lights and switches and everything like that. Now this one gets overlooked a lot, but you want to grease all the main joints and moving operations within the door. That means like spots like here, down here, and down there. And if you're never sure, just move the door and look for what moves. All it is just getting a little bit of lubricant. Like I have here, and just spraying it down. Spraying all the moving parts. You don't have to worry about spraying, for example, like the bolts. That doesn't matter. It's just within here. The moving areas is where you want to get. Just get it generally lubricated. I find you do want to do it more in the winter time than in the summertime. The summertime, you're just more trying to get any buildup or anything there out. In the winter, you want to spray a little bit more on there. But that's another video for another time. Actually, I do have a winter prep video, so make sure to check that out too. You do want to check your wipers next. Checking your front. Lifting it up to make sure the rubber is good. It's still soft and flexible. No cracks or breaks within it. And checking your rear if you have one too. And here's a perfect example of one that's not so good. You can see the rubber is starting to get a little harder. Just get the zoom out here. You can see the rubber is already broken here. So this is a wiper, for example, that needs to be changed. Next is just doing a general check on your suspension and brakes. Now, that's a little tricky one because a lot of people are not going to be savvy enough to want to go in. Not everyone, of course, but some people don't want to take off their wheels, check their suspension and brakes, and if they did, they may not even know how. So I'm just going to give you a very basic way of checking that out for the suspension and the brakes, just to kind of give even the most basic person just a feel of what's going on in their car. So checking your brakes is just as simple as taking a look here. First, actually, even simpler still, just driving. When I told you to do that test drive and listen for noises, you also want to listen for your brakes as well. Here, if you hear any noises on the brakes. Looking over here, you want to look and see if there's any scorching or damage or anything like that. As you can see, this is starting to wear, so there may be a little bit necessary on here. When you're checking, before you even go further, make sure your hands are clean, especially if you're following this video to a T, you're changing your oil, doing greasing your doors. You don't want any of that on your brakes when you're touching it. Make sure your hands are as clean as possible. You want to be feeling here, feel if there's a lip, because if there's a significant lip from here to here, then the rotor may be wearing out significantly. And you want to go in there and take a look. Now, previously you always have to take off your wheels to take a look, and if you're savvy enough to do it, I absolutely recommend taking off your wheels. That is the best way. But even if not, just going in here, you have the technology now, going in with your camera and taking a look and seeing what the pads are like. This will give you a pretty good indication as well of what's going on with your brakes. You know, record it and then just kind of take a quick look and see. And you can see the pads are right in here. Those are kind of those two lips in there. I wish I could get my fingers in and show you, but I can't show you here. But you can see them. They're right kind of center smack there. You can see kind of like this blackish looking material. That's the pads. Let's see if we can get, there you go. See? And you can see the rotor in there. The rotor is the one with the gaps. It's like two pieces of metal, then a gap and like a little piece in between, and then the pads are pressed right against it. You can see those pads actually look like they've got a decent amount of meat on there. So that's checking that out. Now again, when it comes to checking things like brakes and suspension, if you get the wheel off and actually inspect it, that is the best way. If you can't do that though, this will actually give you a small feel. Whether you got a car, SUV, anything like that, Open up your door. Just stand on the edge, up, and just bounce a bit. When you're bouncing, you shouldn't hear anything too unusual. You may hear slight movement, especially if you have your parking brake on. You may hear the wheel moving slightly against that, but you shouldn't hear any weird noises, grinding, anything like that. If you are hearing that, that is something to be concerned about, and maybe something to check into. Again, if you can take the wheel off and check it yourself, by all means. If not, though, just give it a couple bounces. It should be nice and firm. It shouldn't be like when you bounce it bounces 2 or 3 times. That should never happen, no matter what the age of your car. Unless it's like a car from the 50s or something like that. You shouldn't be doing that. You should get maybe a bounce and a half, and that's it. Anything more, there may be a problem, maybe something worn, any weird noises, grinding, squeaking, loud squeaking, anything like that, have it checked out. That means cleaning the inside of your car, getting rid of the salt, clean up the glass, getting the grime off that's probably built up over the winter. If you really want to make sure you detail the dash or anything, nothing, you don't have to be shiny or fancy or anything like that, but something to condition it to make sure it stays healthy from the sun and things like that. And last, you want to make sure you're giving your car a nice wash, getting it all cleaned up, ready to go. You want to get into the wheels, spraying the brake, into the wheel wells, into the doors, cracks, everywhere like that. You want to get the car all nice and clean, so that way you're driving not only with a nice vehicle that you have pride in, but at the same time too that it's gotten all the gunk off and everything like that, and it's a little bit healthier just because all the road salt, especially if you deal with the areas that they have road salt for the winter, getting all that salt off, you're getting all the buildup off, everything. That's it. That's all there is to it. That's my top 10 things. Hopefully you find this video a little bit helpful. Hopefully it gives you some ideas what to do. Hopefully you guys have been doing some of this stuff actually, but if you haven't, hopefully it's helped you picked up on a few things. Now though, when you're ready to hit the spring and summer, you're going to have a car that's ready to go. It's going to be on the road running with nice clean interior, clean exterior, everything maintained, wipers, lights, engine oil, fluids, everything's ready to go. Once again, thank you very much for watching. See you next video.